Hello. Are you so tired of hearing people say, I need a vacation from my vacation? Well, you're definitely not alone. I know I roll my eyes at that, and you probably do too. So today I am going to be talking about how can we fix that? Because I think that we go so hard. Work hard, play hard is another one that people love to say, and I cringe at whenever I hear. I mean, I'm guilty of saying it too. So don't get me wrong. But if you want to change the way you think about vacation, then you're going to want to stick around. So this live is for anybody that has come home from a vacation or is dreading coming home from a vacation, is really thinking to themselves, why can't I stay longer in this place? There's so much left to explore. I'm going to share today how you can swap your vacation, and when I say that, I'm talking about a week or two with an entire month for the same costs, maybe even less. And I'm going to explain the math on that and how you can do that without uprooting your whole life. So I know for most of us North Americans, which is probably who's watching right now. And if you are watching, let me know by entering in where you're tuning in from in the comments, so I know you're watching. And so for us North Americans, it's taking a month off is unheard of. Obviously, in places like Europe, that's par for the course. Every summer they get their month of August off and they enjoy life. So they've got a very different way of approaching vacation and time off. So how can we learn from that? And it is something, obviously our culture is very different. I understand economics, and we are not them. I get that. But let's just open up our minds and see how we could get that, because who doesn't want more vacation, more exploration, more adventure in our lives? That's what I am here to help with and figure out, how can we get more of that into our lives before, retirement, and however many, decades that is in the future, because we don't want to wait for that. So I really want to dive into that topic more and explain how we can do that. But before I get into that, I just want to explain why. Why would we want to do this? I mean, besides, of course, more exploration, more fun, all of those things that I just said, that, those are obvious things that we want to do. But what I really want to talk about, and I can start with my own experiences and some of my clients' experiences. And if you don't know me, if you aren't familiar with me, I help people live abroad for a month or more, even with the job, the house, the pets, the kids, and a crazy busy schedule. So I really want to talk about first my experiences and my clients' experiences to explain why it's so different to travel and take, just your typical 1 or 2 week vacation. And I helped plan many of those. I started my business in 2016, planning vacations all around the world, very customized experiences. And those are all fantastic. Who doesn't love a good vacation, right? But what I want to explain is, how does that differ from taking a whole month? And I personally have taken a year-long sabbatical from my corporate. I used to be a consultant. In my past life, I did that for 13 years, and I took a year-long leave of absence from my job to travel to all 7 continents during that year with my husband. And that was just a decade ago, which is kind of crazy. So I have some perspective on how that, drastically changed my life path. And the other thing is, I also took 3 month-long sabbaticals, and 2 of those were in my corporate days, and then one was as an entrepreneur. So got kind of a wide variety. I can, talk to you depending on if you are an employee or an entrepreneur. This is all possible. And the main two differences that I found in taking a month or more away compared to just a week or two was one, clarity. So I think it's really hard to fully unplug yourself from, you know, just the emails and the work, but also at a deeper level, like the identity that you have as a, insert job title here. But having a longer time period away allows you to more deeply, if you are taking a sabbatical during that time, you can fully unplug. I help clients, fully transition their work. So that's something that's very possible to do. Um, but even if you are taking this as, remote work, you're just in a different environment. So you can think differently. And having that clarity to, who you are outside of work, what you want in your life, and how you want to shape that future, that is, invaluable to be able to do that, because most people just live their life on autopilot. Give me a like if that resonates. Because it's just easy to live by default, right? And to just keep doing what you're doing, even if you're not, 100% satisfied, because change is hard, change is scary. I get that. But having the time away from home is just a really easy way to like reset and think differently. And then the other thing that I got from my sabbatical experiences was confidence to do things outside the norm. So obviously, taking even just a month is not something that's normal, and it's not something that most people ask for. But it is, if you do make the ask, there's usually ways to make that work. And I'll be talking a little bit about how you can make it work with work a little bit later. So stick with me and I'll dive into the details there. But I really want to make sure that you think about, okay, if I were to hypothetically travel for a month, what could that do for me? What would that open up? What would those possibilities, what would that life potentially look like? Because those are the good questions. That's where you really get into how this can, potentially change your life, not just, yes, see the world. That's all fantastic. But there's a possibility to use this time to do something that you've always dreamed of that, maybe just isn't possible to do in a week or two. Um, I think that you owe it to yourself to explore that a little bit more and not wait however many years until retirement to live out that dream. Life's definitely way too short for that. Um, for some of my clients, their big whys are things like, potentially wanting to test out living abroad more permanently. So traveling to a place for a month. I've got one of my clients, Kelly. She just tried out Albania. She's in Portugal right now. So she's kind of deciding between the two, which is really exciting. I've got some other clients that are taking a 3-month sabbatical all throughout Europe. And that really, the main driver there was addressing burnout. So I mean, that's another thing, that a vacation in that case is just like a band-aid. That's not going to address the underlying causes. So that's where something like a longer term sabbatical is a massively different, level to be able to address some of those root causes. And then some of them, some of my clients, they've got families and they, really want to demonstrate their core values as a family of, raising global citizens and showing them the world. And, what a beautiful way to be able to give that gift to them, to show them other cultures, ways of life, languages, etc., in a more deeper way than just a whirlwind tour of 5 cities in 2 weeks. I mean, there's a time and a place for that, but I would say most of my clients they've done some traveling and they know that staying in a place longer gives you a much deeper and richer experience. And on that note, in terms of slow travel, that's really what I help my clients do. And what I mean by that is, so if let's say you take a month, you would have a home base. So you would, live kind of as much as a local as you can, but you can have the opportunity to get settled in a place, and then you can still explore and do day trips and even overnight trips. Because the beauty that I'll talk about in the costs is that with a monthly rental, that's usually about the same cost as a nightly the expensive nightly rates at hotels that you would be paying for a week or two. So it's wild how much those really end up netting to be about the same cost. So the beauty of slow travel, I think, is actually slowing down, because so many of us we say, oh, we need to relax, we need to slow down, but then when it comes to vacation time, there's very little of us, especially in the US. So we feel like we need to squeeze it all out and, make the most of it. And you end up being exhausted and coming back to work saying, I need a vacation for my vacation. So it's this like ridiculous cycle, right? And it's so hard to break. The wanderlust is strong. I get it. I understand. But I would love to help you see an alternative way of potentially traveling, and that's in a much slower, more intentional way that's very centered around the specific goals that you want to achieve. um, and the other thing with that comes with that is, of course, it sounds more relaxing, because it is. You're not, most of the stress of travel is the actual act of travel. So going from point A to point B, and if you're doing that on a like basically daily basis, that's exhausting. But you can really settle into a place if you start to not have to think so hard about, how do you get to the grocery store? How do you get to the train station? How do you get to, this XYZ restaurant? And you start to, know the lay of the land, and it feels more like home. All of those little decisions that create a mental fatigue, decision fatigue, that starts to dissipate as you become more familiar. So thinking of traveling just in a different way, I think, is and can be so powerful to your overall enjoyment of that experience. So let me take a pause and take a sip of my coffee. I wanted to share again, before I dive into like exactly the how can you swap a, week or two vacation with a month, because I get that that's kind of a crazy topic or a crazy leap. um but I wanted to share a little bit more about why I started my business and how I started my business. So as you can imagine, the sabbatical experiences was a real big shape and motivator, because I had all this travel experience. People would ask me naturally, for my advice and recommendations on specific places. And so, after I returned back, especially from our year-long career break, I decided that I would start my own travel agency. And like I mentioned, I planned a lot of vacations, and that was all wonderful. I thought, that was my life's purpose. But that was until I started helping people plan their own sabbaticals, and their own extended adventures around the world. And that's what really lit me on fire and what got me so excited, because there is a difference in terms of, as I just mentioned, what you can do with a week or two versus what you can do in a month or more. A week or two is usually centered around like checking things off your list, and seeing things and experiencing things. But usually, people who take a month or more, there's bigger shifts that can happen. And as I mentioned, what happened for me, those are the real, like, truly life changing experiences that I want everyone to have. And I think that in as short as a month, you can absolutely experience that. And so, that's really why I am focusing now exclusively on helping people travel for a month or more, because it's just such another level. And I get that it's a big stretch going from, a week or two to a month, that requires more planning, more preparation, a lot more coordination. And, from a logistical standpoint, in the travel arrangement side of thing, but also in life, and what you need to do at home to prepare for being gone for that amount of time. I think that's something that I have a unique um, set of experiences doing, and for myself, and also helping clients. And that just really excites me. So, okay. And if at any point, I'm going to get into the how, if at any point you have questions, please enter in the comments, because I'd love for this to be as interactive as possible. And so I'm going to get into, give me a second here. I've been doing these lives as interviews, so I haven't done like a full half hour of like talking straight. I need some water. Um, I actually have I have a 3-year-old son. I have his little water cup, but he's not here right now. Anyway, I might need that in case of emergency if this coffee doesn't do the trick. But I'm going to get into the how. How can you make that swap, right? Because it feels like this huge gap between vacation and a month, right? But it's actually much more achievable and a smaller gap than what you might be imagining in your head. So let me walk it through from a cost standpoint. So I'll start with money, then I'll get into like work, and then the pets and the kids, and timing. I'll cover all of that. So first, with money, I already touched on earlier, how just thinking about accommodations, that usually ends up being a pretty even swap. And I know it's counterintuitive, but if you usually stay in, even if you do stay in home rentals, or more like budget accommodations, I'm not talking necessarily about like swapping a 5-star resort for a crappy Airbnb. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about apples to apples, your travel style. So you might be a luxury traveler, but you also might be a budget traveler. So, apples to apples in the same destination, a nightly rate at a hotel, usually, for let's say a week or two, usually ends up being about the same as a month long home rental at a similar kind of a level of, cleanliness, service, etc. Now, why is that? Well, if you rent a home on a monthly basis, a lot of places offer monthly discounts. It's a win-win, right? I mean, they don't have to, if they are doing a short-term rental, they don't have to clean it, 15 times throughout the month. They only have to service it and turn it, a full turnover once. So that's a huge advantage to them. They don't have to worry about filling it for like random gaps. So it makes sense to pass some of those savings, and advantage over to the person that's staying. So that allows you, that savings. And then, you can travel more like a local, where you take maybe like a weekend bag, and you can go to a nearby city to explore that for a few days. Yes, you can be paying, technically double, but you can still explore in a different way. And of course, take advantage of day trips and things like that. So, that's accommodations. For flights, you're still doing a round trip flight. So you're just stretching those dollars across. It's actually a better value if you think about it that way, to do a round trip flight for a month versus just, a week. Um, food costs, if you're renting in a home rental, you can cook food at home as you normally would. You probably will eat out a bit more, to be able to sample the local flavors and all of that. But usually the budget isn't significantly higher, unless you're foodies, then But again, that's all based on your travel style and your expectations. For transportation, you're just moving around less. So instead of hopping from place to place every other day, or every few days, you're stretching that out and, more sparsing in day trips versus, flights across countries, for example. So a lot of times the transportation cost in a month is less, depending on how you slice it and dice it. Same thing with activities. Like you might just have a slower pace. You're not doing like a tour every day. You might have, a tour activity that's, something special that you want to do every few days, or you have absolute control over that. So I think that my main point is, um that you control your overall budget, and you can make the budget fit your particular needs. um the other thing is looking at it as an investment. So this is another mindset shift. I mean, yes, so I just kind of talked about, like, on paper, if you were to put in a spreadsheet, how that would side by side compare. But I think thinking about the money as more of an investment in yourself, and especially if you have kids, like investing in their future. And I think for most people, at least talking to other financial advisors and, how people want to use their money, travel is usually like number one, number two on their list. So I think seeing it as an investment is so huge. Um, and other ways, like if you are kind of more concerned about the money aspect, there's ways to lower costs, like choosing a less expensive destination, choosing a place like Thailand versus Switzerland. Thailand is 12 times less expensive than Switzerland, for example. So yeah, the flight there might be a little bit more, but if you're spending a month, like daily costs are going to be so much lower. Using miles and points. I've got a whole list or a whole show on travel hacking for beginners. That was on August 17th, with Miles and Points expert Allie. DM me, just Miles and Points, and I can send you a link directly to that if you want to check that out. And then, there's a bunch of other ways, for example, like house sitting, house swapping. You could potentially even make money if you rent out your own house or your car, stop some bills. Like if money is the concern, there's so many ways to save money, that are, I would say you have more options to save money if traveling for a month than you do just for a week or two. So I'm going to pause on that note because I think that's important to say. And then, so let me know if you have any questions on the money, the financial, like what does that require of you? And then I'm going to get into work. So think about like Europeans, they love to take their month off, like that's totally standard. Even Gen Zers, like they've got it figured out, right? So how can we channel some of that energy and think about time off differently? Now, my first step in for anybody is to take a look at your employer's policies for time off. You may be surprised at what you find that's just not, outwardly publicized or communicated very clearly. You could uncover that your employer even has a sabbatical program, but it's just not something that a lot of people take advantage of. You might have some opportunities for leave of absence. So I mentioned I had a year-long leave of absence from my employer. So I was able to come back to my same job, keep my, months of service and all of that. It was a very seamless process. But I didn't know anybody who had done that before. I just did the research and then I asked, I got in touch with HR and it was as simple as like filling out a form. So like we build it up into our heads that it's this like huge thing. But it usually ends up not being as difficult as we think it is. So if you want more details on a couple other examples of that, I would love for you to watch. There was another live that I did with clients Sasha and Jose that was on August 24th. They are in totally different fields and they both got approval for that 3 month sabbatical. That was the couple I was talking about. That's really enjoying. I almost like teared up seeing a post from them yesterday. It was so sweet. They're in Florence right now and I'm just so happy for them. Anyway, that episode, DM me if you want the link to that, because that if work is a big hurdle for you, hearing their story I think would really help, because we dove into that pretty deeply. But I also have a guide that has 4 ways to take a sabbatical without quitting your job, because you don't I mean, of course, if you want to quit your job you can anyway, but I think, and I firmly believe that there's ways to do that without quitting your job. So DM me like the word work and I can send that free guide to you. You might also, if you really can't make it work to take a full month off, at least not the first time. You could always combine potentially some paid time off with remote work if that's something that is a possibility for you and your job. So I think that honestly, the biggest thing with work is doing the research. And the hardest thing is just asking for what you want and giving yourself permission to ask. Honestly, giving yourself permission to say, I deserve this. This is a dream that I have, or maybe it's a need I have if it's in the case of burnout. But giving yourself permission to take that time off that's step number one. Honestly, like that, if you can do that, then you're good. Okay, and then I'm going to quickly cover like kids, pets, home. There's solutions for all of this. There are definitely ways. I know you're not the first one to travel for a month or more with kids and, owning a house and having pets. So with kids and home, they kind of go together a little bit. There's like, I'll throw out one resource in particular, trustedhousesitters.com. If you want somebody, if let's say you have a pet and you want them to stay in their house, but don't have like a friend or family member that can take care of them, you can get a house sitter. So they not only take care of your house and can do some basic things like water the plants or shovel the driveway if you're going away in the winter time, they can also take care of your pets. So that is a really popular option for people that have pets. They've got fantastic pet care too, like a 24/7 vet hotline that you can call. So I could go on about that. There's also sites like rover.com that you might want to check out too. Again, if you don't have family or friends to help you out. So let me know if you have any questions specific on pets or the house. In terms of kids, I mean, if you're looking at just a month, I say just a month. If you're looking to take a month, the summer is by far the easiest time to do this. But there's a lot of childcare options, camps, other communities that include childcare all over the world. This is kind of a passion project of mine to consolidate all of those to be able to like match clients with their specific needs to take care of that. And so there's communities like Boundless Life is a really popular one, World School, pop-up hubs. And if you're interested in specifically education services, there's a lot of options. One in particular, and also just talking about education in general and how travel fits in with that, and how, I personally think travel is the best education. You're going to want to check out the live that I had with Corey Greenberg. That was on August 10th. And that she's from Pacific Preparatory, which does one-on-one virtual tutoring services. So a really fantastic option if you're looking to not be the one doing homeschool. So if you just, I think that the important note there is you don't have to be the teacher. if you don't want to be the teacher, there's options for you to not be the teacher. So that's fantastic news, I think, to anybody contemplating this lifestyle, especially for a longer period of time. So that is amazing. So let me know if you have any questions. But otherwise, I'm going to hop into a an offer that I have that I'm very excited. I'm giving you like a little bit of a preview here. Um, where I am going to talk about the a new offer that I'm calling the Live Abroad for a Month Planning Roadmap. And that is, if you look at my website, the link is in my bio or my profile, at the Live Abroad for a Month. And I'm really breaking out phase one of that process to essentially give you a taster. And because I think for so many people, it's like, this sounds great. Everything, you might be thinking, I love that for me, for for you, maybe, but not for me. But you're curious enough that you want to explore, like, how could I do this? How much would it cost? When would I go? What exactly would I do for the house pets, kids, etc. And what would I do with that time? What could I experience? Where would I go? All of those questions are answered in the phase one of my Live Abroad for a Month program. So this is something that I've talked with multiple people, and most of the time what is needed is convincing of their husbands. It could be wives or other partners, but it's usually the husbands where they're like, okay, great, but I want more facts, I want more data, I want more of a plan before going down the path of like fully committing to this idea and doing all the travel arrangements and all of that. So this is a proven system to be able to plan your month abroad in just a couple weeks. So I'm pulling out all of the best parts of that planning process for this new roadmap offer. So that includes 2 weeks of like daily bite-sized emails that really take you step by step through the full process to define your goals, remove those roadblocks, like how can I do this? Calculating exactly the costs and where that money is going to come from, finding the time and choosing your destination. And then you get a one-on-one call with me. And I've got tools and templates. Like I mentioned, I was a former consultant, so I like to keep things organized. I've got, a one consolidated spreadsheet where you can keep kind of all of your work and go back to it and have one place for all of that, all of those details. And then in the call with me, we go through that and we really solidify that plan. And we say, okay, here's when you can go. Here's where you can go. Here's what you can do. Here's exactly how you're doing that. And, here's how you're going to achieve those goals that you set out for yourself. And those calls are some of my favorite because that's when it really like becomes real. I think that there's all of these little pieces and individually it still feels a little bit vague, like, oh, maybe I could do this, but like bringing that all together, having a cohesive plan and an action plan for like, what do you do with that? That is where you can actually start to take action. You can commit to it. And, for the people who like need all the data, this is going to be perfect for them because it really outlines everything. And, I think, especially down to like the costs, I think from a financial standpoint, what do you do with work? I step through exactly what to look for in all of the tools, or sorry, the policies and the fine print, all of that. So I step you through all of that. So if you've had this idea for a while that you want to really take a trip that's longer than a vacation, but maybe not quite, I'm gonna fully quit my job and go travel for a year, then this is definitely for you. This is like a great way to even if you're not even fully sure if you want to do that test run of a month, but you are curious enough that you owe it to yourself to be able to see what that could look like. then you're going to want to DM me. So this isn't fully officially launched yet. At this point, it's just a wait list. So in order to get on that wait list, just DM me the word roadmap, and I'll add you to the list, and we can take care of the details later. I'm going to officially launch it next week. I have my in-laws that are in town right now, so this is a last minute thing, but I was just so excited that I wanted to share some of the details on that. And I want to just let you know that if you do want to join the wait list, and then you do decide, and the wait list, just send me, though, if you're even remotely interested, I'll send you more details. Just send me the word, DM me the word roadmap. I'll send you the details. And if you send me that DM in the next week, so by the 4th, and you do decide that you want to purchase the roadmap, then you're going to get an extra bonus group call. So I'm also testing out with this is kind of more of a community feel, because I think that there's a magic too in people kind of going through this process together and helping each other out, and also seeing where other people, get their inspiration. And I think it will just help with excitement. And so I'm going to be doing a Facebook group along with this. This is all for a limited time, and it's a beta. So I'm going to be launching this for $197, and that's going to be the lowest price it's ever going to be. And I think that it's tremendous value if you are, remotely interested in kind of taking those steps to exploring, like, how can you make this happen. So send me a DM with the word roadmap. I'll get you the details once I have it like all compiled. I pretty much just ran through it all, but it's always good to kind of see it versus just listen to it. So I think that this is really going to be perfect, especially if you want to do this in the next year. So in the next 12 months, most of my clients right now are planning for the spring or summer of 2024. And I don't want you to keep kicking this can down the road if it is something that you've wanted to do for a long time. There is going to be no perfect time. So, again, no obligation. Just DM me the word roadmap, and I'll get you more details. And you can always make that decision, or we can talk to make sure that this is a good fit for you. But I'm really excited to share this. And I hope to be in touch with you. Any other questions? And I'm trying to do this on both LinkedIn and Instagram. So if you see my eyes, I'm like trying to figure out where to look here. But if you have any questions, just send me a DM or enter in the comments here, and I'll be checking those. But I hope to be talking with you soon. You have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.